Hi, and welcome to Indigo Starfire. My name is Bevin, and in this pick a card reading, I'm going to be doing a twin flame energy check-in reading. These are general collective readings, so not every reading is going to resonate with everybody's situation every time. Just take the messages that work and leave the rest. If you would like to book a personal reading to look more specifically into your unique situation, I offer those for purchase through my Etsy shop, and there's a link to my shop in the description box of the video. If you're interested in pick-a-card readings related to topics other than love and romance, you can also find those over on my second channel here on YouTube, which is called Lady of the Dawn Tarot. There's a link to that channel in the description box of the video as well. So for this reading, there are 3 groups to choose from. Group 1 is the purple fluorite, along with this card. Group 2 is the carnelian, along with this card. And group 3 is the howlite, along with this card. So if you want to take a moment to center, focus on your breathing, and feel whichever group, maybe multiple groups or perhaps all of the groups that you're most drawn to, I'll give you a minute to make your selection and then we'll get right into it. And there are timestamps in the description box of the video for each group if you would like to jump ahead. And up next is a close-up photo of the cards and the crystals to help you better make your selection. Hi, Group 1. You chose the purple fluorite, along with this card, which I will take a look at towards the end of the reading. This will be some guidance from Spirit for you about your twin flame connection. So let's start by looking into your person, your twin flames, thoughts and feelings about you and the state of your connection right now. Okay, so we've got the 7 of Swords, the 10 of Cups, King of Swords, the Devil, Temperance, and the Ace of Pentacles. So it looks like something might have spooked your twin flame recently to run from you, run from the connection, maybe too much feel-good energy between the two of you, some kind of interaction you had with one another. If you're still in communication, your twin may have pulled their energy back or could be coming up with like excuses, canceling plans, just sort of making themselves scarce at this particular point in time. And this could have had you really in your head, sort of, did you say something? Was there something that you were missing? Is this person just playing with your emotions, leading you on in some sort of manner? And it feels that they have reached actually a precipice within themselves of bigger feelings surfacing than they are prepared for at this point in time, or a nudge or an urge maybe from their higher self that it's time to evolve the situation to the next level, that you've grown the connection with one another to the point where you both have grown individually as people, that in order to continue along this path towards one another, there's going to need to be sort of an elevation or an increase in the depth and consistency of reciprocity. If feelings have not been revealed yet, you've not kind of had those loving words exchanged or conversations about more kind of long-term plans with one another, they may be getting a sense that sort of the season is fast approaching or is here for that to occur. Kind of bigger forces that are in motion in terms of this connection, the bond that the two of you share, that sort of transcends the ordinary. And from this kind of point forward, it feels that it marks the potential closing of a big cycle between the two of you and the opening of a new cycle. And so sort of this instinctual awareness within them that things are going to start moving at a very quick pace, or seemingly kind of like insignificant actions have kind of these big ripple effects, or even sort of the repercussions of actions in the past are now kind of catching up to the point where it's time to grow, it's time to evolve, or to really start to ask those questions. Is this tenable in a long-term sense? Are we moving in the same direction with one another? Or is this just going to be an example at this point of sort of plateauing and back around into familiar patterns and circumstances? Trust may have been broken or sort of strained in this situation at one point in time, so this can also really indicate that your twin flame is having a hard time trusting themselves, not to break your trust in the future, or they might be a little bit sort of hesitant to fully invest themselves in the belief in what it is they're feeling, what it is they're experiencing with you, what it is their higher self is calling them to do, or that they may have gotten glimpses or flashes of, in terms of, if we continue down this road with one another, if we continue investing in this situation, big changes are afoot, that they're starting to really comprehend how out of the ordinary this connection is. And it feels that there's a part of them that is very much drawn to that. They're very magnetized to this. They're very curious. There's an element of intrigue here. They're wanting to explore and to experience more about what this connection has to offer. Both the version of them that kind of rises to the surface when you're in harmony with one another, when the times are good, when you're having those really fulfilling interactions, and even in the aftermath of time spent together, kind of the nature of sort of where their mind wanders, maybe even like downloads that they're getting, an energetic connection that they feel with you from a distance, telepathy that may be on the increase or on the rise at this point in time, that it feels like they were carried on some sort of a wave of momentum of really being involved in that, really participating with that, and going all in that capacity. And then it's almost sort of like stumbling into some degree of shadow within themselves, a little bit sort of like, do I have what it takes to really meet this other person's expectations in a long-term sense? Am I ready to kind of carry things to the next level? It may be that sort of things are leading or building to the point of kind of those big decisions, those big conversations that need to be had, big declarations, truth telling as far as feelings are concerned, that it almost feels like if they run or they pulled back their energy from this connection, they're deep in thought at this particular point in time. What can I reasonably give to this connection? Versus sort of also it feels like, what are the unreasonable barriers that my fears are putting up around continuing to move toward the energy of harmony with this person? So it's a bit of kind of planning, it feels like, in strategy about what happens next in this situation, and a bit of kind of soul searching about how have they been getting in their own way up to this point in time in terms of this dynamic, and something that may have happened recently, or you're still kind of in the midst of experiencing, that even though things are very good on the surface perhaps, or if you've been at a distance there, the idea of kind of moving back towards you and opening those lines of communication again, it fills them with a sense of, this is the right path, this is the right move, the right time to kind of head in that direction. But then sort of that degree of hesitation, or at the last minute where they clam up or kind of retreat or fall back into old patterns, instead of just being very unconsciously, almost like in a washing machine effect with this, where they're kind of just being churned all around, and there's a lot of debris and cloudiness going on. It's almost like they've taken a bird's eye view with this perspective and are starting to kind of vet themselves out, rather, which may be progress for some people in their situation, where this could just have been a person that when they got scared, they projected blame, the defenses went up, and it was kind of just looping around in the same pattern of like runner chaser, hot and cold sort of dynamic. And it feels like at this point in time, there's something where they're peeking behind the curtain within themselves. What part of me is kind of personally responsible, or needs to kind of be taken into account? Where do I need to take ownership as far as some of the responsibility, a lot of the responsibility, a portion of the responsibility for kind of dissonance that may have crept up in your situation, where does that rest like on me versus kind of just this is too intense, or you're putting on too much pressure, or it's I've got too much on my plate. It's a bit of introspection that's happening at this point in time. So if they've tucked into their shell, they don't just have their eyes tightly closed to the situation. It almost feels to be something where they're tucked into their shell and they're kind of looking around at that internal landscape and sort of like, what is serving them long term? What is serving them in this situation? What serves the future potential versus what are some things that they're needing to kind of discard or minimize or sort of handle within themselves in order to be able to achieve some kind of better result, more consistency, more reciprocity with you, and definitely contemplation about offering some sort of an explanation, coming out of hiding. Maybe you've been in separation from one another for a period of time with this temperance energy, and this is all about kind of trying to revive what was lost, but also being very mindful of sort of where this situation has kind of gotten tangled in the past. What have been the shortcomings, both in terms of what they're perceiving you are projecting towards them, as well as kind of like taking ownership within themselves as far as their responsibility and where things have gotten kind of messy or complicated. So let's take a look at some of the blocks, obstacles, challenges, and fears that your twin flame is dealing with right now. Okay, so we have survival, anticipation, and abundance. So a little bit of a lack mentality right now seems to be a struggle. Almost like words that they want to speak, or some sort of an urge to make contact, or to even just energetically speaking, insert themselves more in terms of building toward harmony with you, repairing trust that may have been strained, or kind of mitigated in this situation. There's a desire to build towards something more, and yet kind of a fear of like, am I ready? Can I be consistent? Are we just going to end up right back where we started? These are timeless readings, so whenever you stumble across this and you're drawn to watch it, please take it as it resonates. But I'm recording this on New Year's Day, January 1st, 2024. So happy New Year to everybody. But it feels like something that very significantly, today, like real time, basically, this is a sense of like, what's this year going to look like for us in this dynamic? What am I kind of reasonably able to give at this point in time versus kind of at this point next year, 12 months from now, 365 days from now, not wanting to be in the same position that you find yourselves in currently with whatever has kind of gotten fractured or has been strained, but at the same point in time, kind of doubting in terms of what they presently have available within them, as far as it feels like courage or the right words to say, a way in which maybe things have been lost in translation in the past, where the meaning, the depth, and the nature of what they wanted to convey, words fell short. This might be somebody who's not really good at sort of expressing themselves emotionally. They're not good at expressing their fears. They kind of just lean back into old patterns. And so it's a struggle to almost envision a version of themselves further down the road that perhaps picks up different coping mechanisms or talks things through with you, rather than kind of just reacting and sort of pulling away, or doing things to kind of undermine the bond between the two of you, and kind of where they're at presently versus where they would like to be, with sort of like a set, somewhat reasonable deadline in this situation. There's a big chasm between that. And so there's kind of a lack of confidence in, would you be willing to work with them through this process? Is this something where the situation has maybe just dissolved past the point of repair? Is this something where, your patience is running thin and you're kind of, if they don't bring something big, they're kind of feeling like this might be the last opportunity. And for some people, you may be very sick of going through this process with this person. You may have given them an ultimatum and they've taken that very much to heart. And so it feels like something that's kind of keeping them at a distance until they reach a place within them that is not just giving empty promises, but is able to provide some kind of substance and consistency behind that. This energy of anticipation is kind of like fearing the worst, fearing rejection, fearing that this is kind of just, this is the narrative arc between the two of you, this is as good as it gets, that there'll be kind of this kiss and make up period, things will be good, only to kind of go downhill again, feelings are hurt, people are kind of in their separate corners, round and round in the same familiar loop and pattern. So there's their confidence is kind of strained at this particular point in time. Perhaps that has to do with even the prospect of sort of the pressure of like, okay, a new year is here, and resolutions they may have set, or the sense of, you know, doing some kind of reset for themselves and like, where do I want to be a year from now? But at that starting line, at that day one, at that square one, the idea of all that they're wanting to experience or achieve personally and in conjunction with this connection, the manifestation of that isn't here. The results aren't here yet. And so it's almost, they're looking 10 steps ahead and sort of feeling a sense of, we haven't even begun to repair this, and already they're anticipating some kind of defeat, which it feels like is sort of holding them back, kind of fearing the worst there. And this idea of survival is kind of like, do we have what it takes to really get through this hurdle, to get through maybe a series or reoccurring pattern of like a storminess in this situation? Do they have what it takes within themselves to kind of get out of their own way and start to cultivate better coping mechanisms, better ways of communicating, a different approach or a different reaction in terms of times where they are overwhelmed by what's happening in the situation? Maybe it's things that are directly said. Maybe it's just something where they're reading between the lines. It might even be something that's just kind of, things are really good. This could be somebody who's a master at self-sabotage, who doesn't understand healthy dynamics, doesn't feel worthy and deserving of cohesion within a relationship. They're used to drama. They're used to manipulation. They're used to the rug being pulled out from under them. And so the lack or absence of that in this situation, it's almost kind of like a healthy connection triggers them. It makes them think something's wrong in this situation. Where's the drama? Where's the toxicity? Where's kind of the lower vibrational shadowy energies that I am accustomed to, that I as the individual have consistently magnetized into my world, into my reality? You know, who am I if I'm not kind of playing the combatant in a situation, romantically speaking? And so it feels to be definitely somebody who may create drama where there is none, may read too deeply into things and kind of leap to the worst case scenarios, or it feels like for a lot of people they put a lot of undue pressure on themselves kind of right at the beginning of a process. This may apply to other things in their life as well. There's like a pressure to perform in a certain way that, you know, falling short of that, not meeting those expectations, which may be kind of unreasonable and sort of out of proportion to the reality of what they're working with. In any kind of given situation, this feels like somebody that consistently sort of sets really high goals and fails to meet the mark, or they perceive that they have failed it in some sort of way. Their vision of the future potential often does not match up with sort of the manifestation of the physical reality of circumstances, and yet they feel like someone who's very much tied to kind of those goals, those kind of extreme examples of success in a variety of ways. And so it's that kind of mechanism of sort of setting themselves up for failure, you know, kind of giving up before they've even tried. But instead of this just being kind of an unconscious patterning, it feels like it's something that they're starting to sort of take a look at, but even that's kind of a challenge at this point in time. I see the pattern, but where do I start in terms of breaking free from that, or kind of writing a new program for myself in the midst of all of this? So let's see what their potential actions might be towards you. So we have a leg up, tsunami, wake up call, co-create, and waterfall, effortless. So It feels like this person, your twin flame, works up the courage. They work up the nerve to break the silence, break the ice, bring forth something that it feels like with this little baby polar bear, it's just a baby step, but a step in the direction of growth in this situation. It feels like they come towards you with sort of, there's a fear-based component, and yet their guard is down ever so slightly to where they're leading from a very emotional space, but it may be something where you're almost able to tell that it's just a drop in the bucket compared to deeper emotional conversations that need to take place. Something where you can almost tell like they're holding back. It may come through as very sort of strained or awkward almost, like they just kind of tiptoe out on the ledge to, you know, kind of provide that olive branch to sort of scoot in a little bit closer, energetically speaking. Some may even just kind of try to pop back up as if nothing had happened, and avoid kind of those deeper sort of emotional topics, which may really put the ball in your court to be assertive with them. If they are unable to kind of present something to break the pattern, this may really be kind of the opportunity for you to take the lead in this situation, instead of just being beholden to this same kind of swing between the two of you, where, you know, you're on again, you're off again. You're in resonance with one another, you're in disharmony with one another. This can be something where when they kind of move back into your orbit, present themselves, if it's just energetically, this may be something that you do through meditation, where you're connecting with them, setting some firm boundaries, you know, drawing that line in the sand that is different from what they were allowed to kind of cross into closer proximity of your world and your reality and your heart. You know, maybe this is something where it's direct conversation, where, you know, they're showing back up with a little something, and you're needing to kind of take that brave step forward to really pivot your narrative arc in a direction that is suitable for you, rather than allowing your twin to have so much control. It feels like in kind of the ebb and flow of emotions, kind of the free flowing of the dynamic between the two of you versus kind of this iciness, this sort of wall of ice that they may put up. So it feels like something that for a lot of you, there's going to be an emergence, there's going to be like a resurgence in this situation, but the ownership is really on you. How are you going to respond to this? And it feels like the degree of openness in which they come, depending on what you say or how you react, it definitely could elicit them to sort of run away and hide again. But it feels like the kind of the wave of momentum, it's the same thing that's sort of going on now, where there's a lot of introspection within that shell. Some people are going to allow you to kind of take the lead and sort of follow that example, you know, as you're both kind of flowing in a new direction, expanding out into, you know, maybe not just so easily letting bygones be bygones, but really having those kind of big conversations, those difficult conversations, kind of more of that forward planning. Not we have to do everything all at once, but we need to really map out what is the next year going to look like for us. Your intentions were one thing, stated or implied at one point. How have those changed? Are we still matched up in terms of our visionings for the future? Is this something that is still mutually satisfying to the two of us emotionally, or are we going to need to kind of restructure our dynamic, or even explore the possibility of kind of going our separate ways? It feels like the time is kind of building for that to have that very direct conversation. And if you've been waiting for this person to take the lead, it's definitely something where you most likely, when they're kind of presenting themselves or popping back up, maybe through social media, text, phone call, email, they may keep that kind of comfortable distance and not face you directly. There may be physical, geographical distance between the two of you to where that's not practical. So this may really be an opportunity for you to kind of, you know, they hoist themselves out of hiding. You need to then hoist the connection, or at least sort of direct the attention towards something different, or something more than what has been the case up to this point in this situation. And it feels like for some, they'll be very willing to kind of follow your lead, follow this kind of redirection, and at least sort of dip their toe in that water of the unknown. Now, whether fears get the better of them, or, you know, there's actual progress made, that'll be different for everybody's independent situations. But it definitely feels like some sort of breaking of the ice, some sort of movement forward is quite likely in this situation. So, I'm going to get some message cards from your twin flame's higher self, and we'll take a quick peek at some words that they want you to know, things that they want you to know, and then I'll get into the guidance card and close the reading out with some initials. Before I get these, I forgot to call out the zodiac signs on these tarot cards, so I'll do that real quick. With the Swords energy, we've got Air, Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra. Cups is Water, Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. The Devil is Capricorn. Temperance is Sagittarius, and Pentacles is Earth, Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo. So let's see, what does your twin flame want you to know right now from their higher self? Okay, and they say, I started having insomnia since we last spoke. I am lost without you. Please come back. I made a mistake. I know you are upset with me, and I'm upset with myself. I didn't want to, but I had to get you up. And I can't believe I worked so hard to get you, and then I pushed you away. So, this card right here, your guidance from Spirit, it says, let there be closeness between you, but always give each other space. Love never claims, it simply allows and gives. So, initials can be a first, middle, or last name of you or your twin flame, or can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Got F, M, D, N, N, O, W, B, E, I, U, O, E, U, A, and X. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 2. You chose the Carnelian, along with this card, which will be some guidance from Spirit. So I'll take a look at this toward the end of the reading. I'm going to start by looking into your twin flames' thoughts and feelings about you and the connection right now. Okay, we have the Eight of Swords, the Four of Pentacles, Queen of Wands, Eight of Wands, Six of Swords, and the Nine of Pentacles. So your twin flame is sitting in a lot of admiration for you, but also a lot of intimidation right now. Some of you may have recently gone through some kind of a glow up, something where, you're really maybe taking your attention and focus off of this connection. prioritizing yourself, your own wellness, other kind of projects that you've been working toward, goals that you set for yourself, things that you are endeavoring to do kind of over the course of the next year. It's a timeless reading, so whenever you stumble across this reading and the messages resonate, please take them accordingly. But I'm recording this on January 1st, 2024, New Year's Day, so Happy New Year to everyone. This may be something where even just without expressing this to your twin flame, you may have really set your priorities on something other than this connection, or you're putting yourself first, maybe for the first time in your dealings with your twin flame, or the first time in your life for some of you. Some kind of shift within your energy has been registered and noted by your twin flame, and it has raised the bar in terms of what they are needing to bring to the table in order to continue to match your frequency. You're setting an example for them, directly or indirectly, energetically speaking, that is both very intriguing, and it is showing them that there's some things that they're needing to release or to close out or to come to some kind of consensus about within themselves. Limitations, kind of ghosts of the past that may be lingering, things or people that have resurfaced from their past that have caused them to kind of delay their progress with you, or to kind of question where their allegiances lie, what it is that they want in this life, what it is that they want out of the situation with you, what it is that they want for themselves kind of in general moving forward. This may be definitely a time of reckoning for them. A lot of heart-to-heart conversations that they're having with themselves, so kind of a dialogue with their higher self. It's the idea of almost like the devil and the angel on either shoulder, and they're kind of having conversations with both, sort of like a three-way conversation there. So maybe a third-party dynamic even that you've been in with your twin flame that has kind of been a back and forth situation with your twin flame. This may have resurged. We just came out of Mercury retrograde, which is, prime time for those ghosts of the past to come back out of hiding and sort of present themselves. So that might definitely be something that has happened in this situation. It has caused perhaps you to shift your focus elsewhere and to continue to move forward regardless of what your twin does at this particular point in time. They may be in the process of kind of being faced with cycles that need to be closed, kind of a crossroads moment for them. Whatever choice they determine, there's a sense of recognition that you are no longer going to stop and wait for them. You're no longer going to actively hold space or continue to be in kind of a previous vibration you were in where maybe anything goes. Maybe you were just very kind of empathetic toward them, compassionate towards them. You're trying not to put too much pressure on, trying to just sort of let them evolve and learn their lessons at their own pace. But that has kind of worn thin, or it no longer aligns with kind of what you're wanting out of your life moving forward, the way in which your path has shifted and changed. This could be something that was directly communicated to them, which kind of stopped them dead in their tracks. It could be something just energetically speaking where they're sensing, if there's kind of an option between two people, one of them represents something that is kind of like familiar, it's known, it's a comfort zone, versus kind of stepping towards you on this trajectory of growth and expansion that you individually may be very much focused on, or just your energies are sort of geared in that direction. There's an understanding that to kind of choose you, to choose to walk this path with you, it represents growth and acceleration in their life, some of which may be very uncomfortable, some of which may be long overdue for them. A sense of recognizing that overall that would kind of be in their highest good. There's a sense of almost kind of fearing the unknown in that capacity, but also really understanding that beautiful things could be experienced on the other side of that choice to kind of step outside of the comfort zone. Or there's this kind of compelling energy to just remain in the status quo, remain stagnant, continue to entertain kind of a vibration or a person that they know what to expect. It's the same story round and round. It's kind of something that doesn't challenge them to grow. It might be a person who themselves is very stagnated in their life, has no interest or intention to kind of better themselves, or to dive more deeply within, or to do that kind of hard work of tough love within themselves. And so kind of these two polar opposites that it feels like your twin is presented with. There's not like another literal warm-blooded third party in the situation. And this can definitely just be patterns within themselves in terms of how they have been accustomed to sort of showing up in love and partnership. There may have been a lot of intensity as far as telepathy, kundalini energy exchange back and forth, kind of that creative life force energy that could again be very compelling for them to kind of walk that path, to continue down that route, or sort of rise into love, as opposed to what they might have been used to as love as something which kind of contains, which sort of limits one's ability for free expression and kind of creative potential. But nevertheless, kind of that the limits of love, or the limits within themselves, that is something very, very kind of familiar. There may also be a sense of sort of like wounds from the past that are surfacing, which are sort of, it's a gauntlet that it feels like they need to cross. They need to deal with this. They need to shed these things or expand their mind to the possibility that love and connection can look very different from even the very best love story that they've known in their entire life, and that this is possible through kind of walking into this unknown with you, through willing to kind of spread their wings and fly beyond everything they've known and experienced before. And so as much as they may be sort of just kind of standing in place and watching, not taking any kind of direct action, or being sort of like vague and mysterious, very sort of closed off and reserved in terms of what it is they're feeling within. Almost the idea of like a fight, flight, or freeze response, and this person's gone into like freeze mode at this point in time. They're just sort of watching. They're in a pensive kind of energy, but it feels that it contrasts very much, and they're very aware of that. There's a dynamic energy with you, or you're getting ready to kind of enter into a cycle or a phase of your life where there's going to be a lot of growth. There's going to be a lot of acceleration. This kind of wave of momentum is here, and you are in direct alignment with that. You are already riding that wave. And so the question then is, do they accompany you in that direction, or do they get left behind? Do they just kind of shut themselves out from sort of continuing with you on into the cultivation and experience of a new timeline and trajectory and potential, or is this something where, even if you continue to deal with one another, that maybe perhaps you'll outgrow them, you will come into vibrational resonance with somebody else, somebody who's able to meet you at that level, able to kind of grow and expand with you. All of these sort of different thoughts about kind of which way to turn, what road is the best road for themselves. It feels like all of this is sort of circulating within. So while there may be sort of just a closed energy, or not a lot that they are showing or providing you, kind of an evasiveness almost, or a lot of excuses, or just sort of not participating with you as openly as they have been in the past. If you're still in contact with one another, there's a lot going on behind the scenes in terms of like they're all in their head. Even the fact that I was like repeating that word, stumbling over that word scenes a couple of times, it feels like a lot of scenes sort of replaying in their head. They're looping around. It's the same kind of argument, same circular logic. Should I or shouldn't I? What's the best choice? Am I going to regret this? Am I ready for this? What comes next? Rather than kind of just moving with the energy of flow at this point in time. And this might be part of their defense mechanism, is trying to almost exert some degree of control over the intensity and nature of what they're kind of compelled toward with you, through kind of what has been a usual coping mechanism of, I'm just going to think this thing through, to a place of submission. And it feels like that is something which is, it fits in that narrative of the comfort zone, but it also feels to be something that is kind of bringing up a sense of panic and dread, that the longer they just sort of sit in place and think rather than taking action, the greater the likelihood is that your paths will diverge from one another, and then it'll be too little too late when and if the time comes, they're kind of like ready to catch up with you, ready to kind of stand there by your side and meet you at your level. So let's take a look at some of the blocks, obstacles, challenges, and fears that they are dealing with right now. have curiosity, waterproof, and trickery. So this curiosity card coupled with trickery, if there's like a third party that had surfaced from the past that they're in the process of sort of giving this person consideration, maybe they've changed, maybe it'll work with us, maybe they're finally ready to kind of meet me at my level, and we can turn this into something. That is something that it feels like is a huge kind of wedge for them, because there's a part of them that sort of doesn't just expect the worst, but kind of intuits and knows if you're the person that is on this growth trajectory, if you've sort of energetically or situationally in your life demonstrated that things are changing, you're prioritizing kind of wellness for yourself, abundance for yourself in kind of a broad spectrum sense. It feels like whoever has turned up from their past is kind of the exact opposite of them, or of that. And so it's something that they recognize on a certain level. These are not two equidistant paths, and there's a sense of almost kind of the intrigue or the draw toward this other individual. There's a sense of struggle because they almost know how that's going to end, how it's inevitably going to play out, what that pattern is. They could be dealing with like a narcissistic person, a highly toxic person, somebody who's just kind of, even if they're a very fine and decent individual, something where just their journey in this life, or the place that they are at in this particular moment in time, or even just this lifetime as a whole, that person is not headed in the same kind of expansive direction that they are sensing and experiencing that like you are. So the choice to sort of move in the direction of somebody who in many ways is kind of limited and has no interest in changing, has no interest in kind of introspecting, doesn't see that there's a problem, and therefore is not kind of willing to make any sort of repairs upon themselves or their life. Your twin almost understands sort of what the result of that would be, that although there might be contentment to be found there, it wouldn't be of the same level and nature of enrichment as kind of like an adventure with you in love would be. And so it's something where there's almost this kind of struggle, almost something where, and the phrase that's coming to mind is a glutton for punishment. So it's something where it's almost like their higher self is letting them know that kind of someone else may have popped up from the past as kind of like a temptation, sort of like, are you going to fall for the same tricks that were the case in the past? Have you learned your lesson, or are you just going to fall back into old patterns? And so it feels to be something that's almost a very serious dilemma for them at this particular point in time. Have I learned my lessons? Am I able and willing to shut the door on something which I know fundamentally is kind of not in my best interest, that I've seen the most that it's able to offer, and that has not kind of been deeply nourishing for me on a soul level? Or do I need to go another round on this merry-go-round in this experience and risk losing this connection with somebody that is on a higher vibrational arc, this connection with you, like to risk losing out on the opportunity with that? And yet they're very much kind of compelled in the direction of just repeating lessons, repeating cycles, sort of confronted it with like a make it or break it sort of energy. If it's not a literal other person that has popped back up, it's like memories of the past, or ways in which they're sort of questioning the compulsion towards you, questioning the feelings that have arisen, questioning even sort of like the energy between the two of you, the telepathy, days where they are very much a believer, they're very much in sync and participating with that. Other times where they are kind of looping into fear-based patterns and resisting a lot of that, trying to just use an overly logical approach to something that is more mystical in its nature. It defies explanation. And again, just sort of a sense of understanding that like, if I stay too long trying to figure this thing out, trying to put a name to it, trying to get all the details right and map out exactly what it's going to look like, even 10 years down the road, then I'm going to miss the boat and the opportunity to grow organically in real time, and to kind of be there by this person's side 10 years down the road. So it's something where there's almost, it's like a battle of wits within themselves, a lot of self-deception that's happening at this point in time, almost, and especially if it's dealing with like another party, it almost feels like they worked very hard to kind of take off rose-colored glasses as far as this other person was concerned, and yet those glasses have fallen right back into place, almost like clockwork, which can definitely speak to, kind of more wounding and healing that they are needing to do, something within a karmic cycle with another person that has yet to kind of reach its completion, or that they're kind of tasked at this point in time with putting an end to that once and for all, not leaving that door open, if they choose to kind of embark on the route with you, but sort of whatever choice it feels like that they make at this point, it fundamentally affects the future possibilities and potentials. And there's a part of them that knows that. They may be also somebody who is afraid of commitment, afraid of getting hurt again. Kind of this waterproof energy right here speaks to kind of like King of Cups energy, where they're holding a lot back within. It's a fear of love. It's in ways it might also be a fear of things working out, because that's fundamentally different from their experiences in love in general, or interpersonal relationships in general. They're not used to somebody giving. They're not used to reciprocity. They may feel very unworthy to receive, very kind of frightened to let you in, and to allow themselves to not just fall in love, but rise into love. Because as much as heartbreak may have hurt in the past for them when they'd fallen for somebody and it didn't work out, it's the sense of, if we're rising to the next level with one another, and things don't work out, then that sort of descent back down to the starting point, it's going to hurt a lot more than kind of, even the worst heartbreak had in the past. So there's a little bit of hesitation to kind of take that leap of faith, which that energy of hesitation may also have, ironically, kind of magnetized in these karmics from the past, or, these toxic partners, these kind of loops and cycles, almost like your person sort of looking for a way out, or doubting within themselves their worthiness to receive the nature of the love you have to give, or kind of receive the idea of happily ever after in a material sense, not even just in a fairy tale sense of the word, but even through sort of a relationship that might be kind of challenged, and through the struggles you grow stronger in love with one another. There's a hesitation to fully believe that is a reality, that connections can actually be strengthened through their challenge, rather than have it just be something where resentments are built within, or passive aggressiveness, or kind of revenge tactics further down the road. This may be definitely somebody who has been used to a lot of toxic people. They've called in a lot of toxicity, romantically speaking. They've invited a lot of that into their world and into their reality. And so that being kind of the familiar pattern, it feels like it's either called up these memories from the past, it's sent out the signal that is called in toxic people that are just kind of a resonant frequency for that, but it represents a very appropriate choice point. You can go with what's familiar and known. You know how that ends. You know what the yield and the result is. It has never shown anything kind of different other than what it is. So the likelihood is that it'll remain the same. Or there's this other kind of path that shows change, shows growth, in many ways is different from what has been experienced before, which is what is eliciting so much fear. It's the fear of the unknown, the fear of things working out, a fear of healthy love, which is definitely something that they need to kind of unpack and sort of discern for themselves, in order to be able to kind of progress with you, or it feels like offer something more kind of solid and substantial moving forward. So let's take a look at their potential actions towards you. Okay, so we have river movement, never-ending story, wolf instinct, and all that glitters. So it feels like for the time being that your twin flame kind of just remains in this energy of stuck in their head, very fearful of moving forward into the unknown, into the direction of a love which grows with time, a love which is flowing in a very cohesive manner. They really, and it feels like in terms of what's possible in terms of like big long-term energy between the two of you, they're needing to work through this cycle at this particular point in time. They almost need to sort of fall back into that trick of the fear-based energy within themselves, or maybe it's like a third party who has shown back up with promises of having changed, or a very kind of like sunny energy. They're very enthusiastic, they're willing to give it a chance this time, or they're showing your twin a lot of attention, a lot of what they had been kind of craving or were hooked to previously with this individual, that it almost feels like something where they're going to need to risk, or perhaps even actually sort of miss an opportunity with you in order to be able to kind of take off the masks and understand sort of what was sacrificed, what was kind of given up in the interest of sort of falling back into something that has nothing new to offer. It has nothing new to say. It just represents the same kind of churning round and round. It's almost the sense here with this wolf card. If we think of the phrase kind of once bitten, twice shy, this person may need to be bitten again by kind of situations that were never in their highest good. And so with that being said, it feels like for you, it's something where, growth is kind of happening, your evolution is happening, energetically speaking, or in terms of your life, in other ways. But it may be something where, if your paths haven't already diverged from one another, there may be a need for some separation. There feels like a need for your twin to kind of go through the ringer of some kind of a painful cycle, and hopefully they learn their lesson this time. Hopefully for them, you're still open and available by the time they sort of figure this out for themselves. But it's something where nothing changes if nothing changes, and it feels, at least at this present moment, that kind of fear is getting the better of them. There's a sense within of kind of just, they haven't learned their lesson. They're not necessarily confident in their ability, it feels like, to sort of rise to the occasion to meet you very consistently. And until they tackle that fear within, it will be a lopsided connection. It won't be equal give and take. It would just be this person kind of riding your coattails onto a new vibration, or holding you back from that full expression of your potential and growth. So it almost feels to be something that for the two of you individually, this is a very kind of crucial point in time where trust may need to be fractured, trust may be strained. It may be something that is almost kind of asking you or both of you to sort of trust in the necessity of whatever kind of lessons or difficult experiences are being sort of presented at this point in time. This may be something where a choice to kind of fall back into those old patterns, or move in the direction of something other than this, choosing you in this connection. This may be sort of an opportunity for you to, really sort of search within and ask yourself, is being made to feel like an option in alignment with the vibration of abundance that you have worked to cultivate for yourself? Does this feel right for you? Twin or no twin? Does this feel right for your self-esteem? Does this feel right for you emotionally speaking? Is this a merry-go-round that you want to continue to go on, through this kind of coming year and in the years ahead? Or is this something where, if you're choosing to kind of keep the door of your heart open to their resurfacing, their reemerging at a certain point in time, this may be kind of a crucial period where, you're sifting away from illusions, any kind of rose-colored glasses that you may have on regarding your twin flame or the twin flame journey in general. It may be very necessary to kind of have some, tough love with yourself, even in terms of raising that bar and raising that standard, so that it feels like, if your twin kind of learns their lesson, breaks free from the cycle, or decides to kind of come back around after maybe this other person has broken their heart again, disappointed them again, or if they've chosen to just sort of linger in that sort of over analytical, overly logical, kind of giving too much precedence to sort of the fear of heartbreak and not taking a chance on love, if there's no like other third party in the situation or other kind of competing energies here. This may be something where, if they come back around from that, when they come back around from that, they're greeted with a very different version of you that can be educational, as far as like, if we are going to continue with one another, this is the new standard, this is the new rule book we are playing by, the old cycle is closed, this is the new version, are you in or are you out? Something where there's kind of like a period of individual lessons that need to be learned, and maybe the lesson is, you move forward, you move on, and your twin just needs to sort of sit with that knowing within themselves, perhaps for the rest of this lifetime, of sort of what the ramifications are in a very deep and long-term sense. As a general rule of thumb, when people are presented with the path of fear and the path of love, and the path of fear is chosen, what that ripple effect looks like, what is given up, what is the cost, what is the sacrifice. For some people, that's going to have to be sort of the end game in this situation, because if you're kind of working on your value, you're working on your self-esteem, you're working on that abundance, that magnetic energy, that confidence. You're not going to be settling for crumbs. You're not going to be settling for, being put on the back burner, or somebody who doesn't get what they're looking for with someone who's consistently disappointed them, or like finding out the grass isn't greener on the other side and then they come back when it's just convenient. This might be something where you're going to be the instructor for your twin flame, as far as, really kind of being mindful to break free of patterns within that would even sort of risk the potential of sort of squandering beautiful gifts of connection and experience that the universe provides, in the interest of sort of looping back, or staying very sort of loyal or stuck in kind of these patternings and experiences, which through experience and through kind of repetition, they have a deep awareness of how toxic or limited or kind of low vibrational those things are. So let's get some messages from their higher self, and then I'll get into the guidance card, and then I'll close the reading out with some initials. Okay, and they say, I regret letting others come in between us. It took me a long time, but I'm starting not to care what others think anymore. When you see me, I try not to look into your eyes, because I know you will see past my facade. Sometimes I cry about you when I'm alone. It doesn't feel right without you. And I don't know why I can't seem to stop watching you. So this card right here, and let's see what the guidance is. It says, embrace. Through each other, you find the missing pieces. So that can really speak to this period of time of needing separation or more separation in order to kind of create a greater sense of wholeness within, something that needs to be kind of chipped away at or built within each of you in individual ways, in order to be the building block, the foundation for the potential of a future with one another, or a reimagining of your future with one another. So kind of just, embracing maybe a difficult or disappointing phase that your connection is in right now, is kind of having a bigger purpose for the two of you individually, and in terms of whatever you choose to do or not to do with them moving forward. So these initials can be a first, middle, or last name of you or your twin flame, or can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Got S, Y, G, R, X, W, O, C, C, M, D, V, W, T, U, N, A, and L. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 3. Chose the Howlite along with this card, which will be some guidance from Spirit. So I'll take a look at this at the end of the reading. I'm going to start by looking into what are your twin flames' thoughts and feelings about you and the state of the connection right now. So we have the Eight of Wands, Queen of Cups, Five of Cups, the Moon, the Devil, and the Fool. So communication seems to be on the mind and in the energy of your twin flames, so there may be a lot happening energetically speaking, a lot of creative kundalini energy being exchanged back and forth between the two of you. It also feels to be something that they may have been on the brink of communicating deeper feelings, reaching out to make amends or to evolve the situation forward in some way, and they missed the boat, they missed the opportunity. Fear kind of got the better of them, and instead of being very honest and direct, they almost took a very kind of immature approach, or kind of just failed to move forward, missed that window of opportunity. And it's something which either directly there was disappointment on your part, they're sensing that there was some disappointment on your part. It's almost might be something where there could have been a milestone or an occasion where this would have been a really good time to kind of turn a new leaf in this situation, expand things further between the two of you, and they chose to remain silent versus revealing their truth, and that this is something which is now weighing heavily upon them. It's like a sinking feeling, a sense of having let you down, having let themselves down, and really just feeling very kind of very low vibrational at this particular point in time. Almost a sense of that this may have been a very educational experience for your twin flame in terms of any disappointment or heartbreak or kind of hurt that you may have felt, being like stood up or not valued, not appreciated, kind of a sense of things building and then kind of nothing happens. The grand finale is nothing. That the disappointment and the pain that you held or experienced within, this may have translated to them very much in real time, where they felt that hurt right alongside of you. And this could be something that has really provided food for thought, new avenues of exploration as far as the meaning of this connection, the layers of this connection, which transcend the ordinary, transcend the physical, transcend their experiences of connection from the past. There's an acknowledgement here of like a deep empathic connection between the two of you, where you're really sort of sharing one another's emotions. You're sharing these sensations back and forth that is really causing them to kind of question sort of why it is that they may have run from you in this situation, why it is that they may be sort of avoiding diving in deeper, why, if there is such a bond that even kind of is a prelude to things that are spoken, goes beyond kind of your interactions or experiences with one another. Why are there fear-based energies around this? You represent a sense of home to this person. They feel very comfortable in your presence, very nurtured and understood, very free to be themselves, and yet at the same point in time, it's almost like fear is holding themselves back from revealing some sort of deeper truth. Maybe this is, the energy of that they miss you, reaching out to make amends. If you're still in connection with one another, maybe it's revealing that there are feelings here that go beyond whatever you define yourselves as to one another in a practical sense, or there's an interest in kind of diving in deeper and exploring feelings going forward. They feel to be somebody that, you know, might be kind of even dealing with some difficulties emotionally speaking outside of this connection. And rather than kind of turning to you as a sanctuary, turning to you as like a safe harbor, as a place where they are free to express themselves, and really trusting in kind of the reciprocity of this situation where, you know, maybe you'll just be kind of that safe space for them to unpack some things, or you'd be able to give some sort of sound advice and wisdom. They're not almost even giving you the opportunity to prove that you would be with them through thick and thin. They're almost just kind of retreating within themselves to kind of process some pain and suffering, almost like suffering in silence at this particular point in time, which may really be sending mixed signals, or it's conveying a message that they didn't want to necessarily give. They're not wanting to make you feel very disappointed, and yet at the same time that is what has happened, which it feels like is kind of compounding whatever this personal darkness is that they're dealing with. We've just come through like the holiday season, the New Year timeless reading. Whenever you find these messages and they resonate for you, please take them accordingly. But I'm recording this on January 1st, 2024. So happy New Year to everyone. You know, but this is something to where even with that kind of energy of saying happy New Year, it's realistically the holidays are not always a happy time for everybody. And so that definitely can be something that applies to your situation, where this time of year, or just the place that they're at in their life, the prospect of here we are at another year, at another reset, and kind of inventorying all the years that came before this, goals that they have that they're working toward, or that they would like to work toward in their life, or even just looking around at the life that they are living, and the reality of that, and kind of like, how does that feel? How does that kind of make them feel sheltered truly on like an emotional and a core level, versus sort of what they experience with you, and any kind of disparate energy, any chasm between those two realities, kind of the world you have with one another versus their reality outside of that. There may be a lot of cause for sort of mourning, depression, regret, just a sense of kind of not liking the life that they are living, but not feeling kind of capable or able, or not understanding it as a sign of strength, that level of vulnerability, that it's not just loving words and expressions that are very you know, positive and uplifting, that kind of build and strengthen a relationship, but it's also leaning upon one another during times where you know, there's a perception of weakness or vulnerability, or there are the storms of life. It's almost just, this might be somebody who's really used to just dealing with things on their own, or kind of stuffing and suppressing, sort of bearing down against themselves until storms pass. And there's an acknowledgement, if that's kind of the case, that it's led to some degree of confusion on your part that is very palpable, even without you having to say it. They're able to pick up that on that energy. They're able to perceive that there's a desire to sort of transcend whatever this kind of darkness or heaviness is within themselves, or that has happened in this connection. It's a desire to kind of move forward and to start fresh. They're looking toward the future. They're looking toward almost kind of hope of what can grow and develop between the two of you as a guiding light at this point in time, through navigating what might be a dark period, a dark chapter for themselves, a recognition of things that they may have to let go of in their life in order to truly create space for like a new beginning or the next chapter with you. And kind of an energy of sort of, some of these things may be circumstances they have to deal with very personally, with these 3 cups kicked over here on the 5 of cups. If there are third party situations involved, they may be giving serious consideration to you know, I don't want to be in this same position with the person that is by my side at this time next year. I need to clear this connection, you know, like a third party connection. I need to clear that dynamic out of my life. I need to heal. I need to you know, close up that chapter. And the very idea of that, this may even be part of like a resolution that they have made for New Year's, that it's almost sort of, it's an insular energy where that's a battle they're going to have to face on their own. And rather than kind of expressing or sharing those plans with you, or the sense of, you know, as much as it's in their highest interests, maybe this is a connection that's past its expiration point. Maybe it was very toxic to begin with. It's just not something that resonates with them anymore. It's not the situation that they envision as kind of their long-term future. as much as there is this light at the end of the tunnel of something beautiful that can be created with you, or even just in their life in general, when they kind of extract themselves from the nature of whatever their kind of surrounding or situational experiences are at this point in time, there's still a degree of kind of like mourning and loss that goes with that. A chapter of their life, a version of themselves, maybe even like a long-term partner that needs to be let go, or that they're finally kind of getting in the place of extracting themselves from that, wanting to take that leap of faith forward, but kind of being right on that brink of almost sort of saying goodbye to something before moving in the direction of something else. So if they've gone kind of quiet, or you've, sensed a little bit of, or you're picking up through kind of this empathic connection, maybe you're picking up on a lot of anxiety and sorrow, and just kind of dreary energy from your twin flame. This can all be surrounding sort of like a mourning period, a releasing period, before kind of getting ready to shift the narrative arc of their life in general, as it relates to, just their life in general, and also in terms of like changes that they're wanting to make, or to course correct, to kind of smooth things out, to move in the direction of love, to open up and express feelings that have been hidden, or that they haven't been able to express properly because of third party situations. So it's an essence of kind of, it feels like they're gearing up to do some sort of cleanup in their world and in their reality. The dynamic with you, their life in general, kind of who they are as a person, sort of the inventory of choices and consequences and what that has yielded at this particular point in time. And it's almost something that this might be kind of a revelatory period of some shadow within that you may have only been sort of on a surface level aware of. The idea of kind of asking for help, leaning on somebody else. This might be your twin flame's weak spot. This might be their vulnerability. That's their kryptonite. That's the area that they don't have a whole lot of strength in, is sort of, even just kind of trusting that energetically they're able to sort of lean upon you. It's a sense of not wanting to burden you with whatever this kind of heavy energy is, or whatever this process is, or something they need to just do individually speaking before they can kind of give you their full attention, or kind of move forward. But there is an interest here. There's thoughts and kind of like, how do we move beyond this heaviness? How do I smooth out sort of the unintended consequences of my failure to act, my failure to speak the truth of what I hold in my heart, my failure to kind of properly convey what was going on emotionally, so that we can evolve together beyond this, so that this is not kind of the current or the condition of what we are faced with going forward, but so that we can kind of transcend this period of time, or this experience, and head in the direction of new beginnings and fresh start, in a very kind of beginner's mind sort of energy, where anything is possible. So let's take a look at some of the blocks, obstacles, challenges, and fears that your twin flame is dealing with right now. So we have mischief, anticipation, and night. So quite literally, that can be like dark night of the soul energy, something that can indicate kind of an acceleration and ascension that's taking place, something where a lot's being kind of called up from their personal shadow, or ways in which they're dealings and experiences with you, something as far as the energy exchange is concerned between the two of you, that has really heightened their kind of acceleration, energetically speaking. It's opened their heart to kind of a new experience, a deeper experience of love, a curiosity and an enthusiasm about evolving further with you and exploring this connection. But in order to do that, in order to move in the direction of love, it's very necessary, it's an organic part of that process, to be confronted with, internally or externally, all that is not in alignment with that. Everything that is not love, that is kind of just the shadow of love, or is the suggestion of love, or is kind of like a vibration or a version of love that in some way is very kind of myopic or linear, in a sense, that there's an urge to explore something more divine with you. There's an urge to explore kind of these deeper layers and implications. But in order to do that, it's almost like they're needing to kind of clear away some baggage. They're needing to empty out some chairs in their life in general, or even in terms of like ghosts of the past. or any kind of beliefs or wounds or lingering patterns, even that idea of sort of not recognizing or not having been raised to believe that expressing vulnerability, asking for help, not just kind of building the other person up in terms of love, but really they may never have experienced a connection where someone was actually there for them during hard times. They may have really been the rock and the shoulder for other people. That has been the experience in their love and partnerships up to this point in time. And it's something to where they almost don't know how to lean upon you. They don't know how to ask. They don't know how, they are not even sort of sure how to operate in that capacity because it's only been a different version of themselves. They've never been allowed to be vulnerable. They've never been allowed to be frightened. They've never been allowed to be overwhelmed in connections before. And although there's a sense of that very much being implied, it's invited, energetically speaking, you've demonstrated that maybe through experiences you've had with one another up to this point in time, there's still a bit of sort of like, I don't know how to operate in that energy. I don't understand this yet. I don't have the data or the experience to equate this with like a sign of strength yet. I'm still kind of tying it into some sort of heuristic within self that like, this is weakness, this is an undesirable quality, this is shadow, rather than seeing that kind of shadowy energy as actually a source of light in and of itself, a source of personal strength and power in that ability to sort of say, I feel very out of control and I don't know what to do about this. The idea of mischief can also speak about sort of their mind leaping to kind of worst case scenarios, especially if there's a lot that has sort of just happened without really being spoken, where they've failed to say something, or a degree of almost just like a dark cloud having settled over them, or a sense of that they have reached some kind of decision point that it's curtains on a situation in their life, a third party situation. This is the year where that changes. This is the year where that closes. This is the end of that cycle. And kind of the grief and the mourning that goes along with that. Karmic patterns can also just relate to kind of patterns within themselves, beliefs about love, ways in which they've kind of avoided emotions or avoided you in this connection, just anything that it would really sort of mark an ending in conjunction with like, I'm choosing a different direction. There's an essence here of this being not something that they've talked about, not something that they've shared, but nevertheless, there's some kind of a feeling that is conveyed along with that. You may have really sort of sensed that kind of inspirational moment of, okay, the decision is made within, but then it's accompanied or it's followed, it feels like, by a snowball effect of all the kind of grief, all the fear, all the sense of being in their head about kind of what's involved with dismantling certain patterns in their life, patterns internally speaking, situations, relationships, any of the things that are standing in the way with kind of fresh start, moving forward with you, opening up and being more vulnerable, revealing deeper feelings, confessing feelings for the first time, whatever that looks like. It's a sense of sort of like a process that needs to be done or that they've kind of chosen to do quietly and internally, and the ripple effect and the ramification just upon maybe some awkwardness that has ensued, or ways in which they are now sensing and feeling and perceiving right alongside you that disappointment and heartbreak, that letdown, but they don't feel to be at a place where they can really speak about their motives or kind of address the elephant in the room. And yet at the same point in time, they're very aware of kind of you being there almost in real time in terms of these feelings that are being harbored within, and kind of this boomerang effect back and forth between the two of you, that there's a lot of kind of fear that without them being able to really convey what's going on, that you'll misconstrue things, and maybe that heartbreak or disappointment will be enough to cause you to sort of shut them out, to not be open and receptive to them. A sense of almost kind of like your intuition being clouded, your kind of awareness of sort of the higher love that exists, kind of the core reality of who and what you are to one another. There's a fear that sort of the 3D complications which stand in the way of the full embodying of that and the process, it feels like that your twin flame is starting to embark upon that leap of faith to kind of do their part on their end to clear out and create an open road toward a future with you there's a feeling of sort of like things that may take some time, or that it might be sort of a slow process. What if it's too little too late? What if they miss the opportunity with you? What if they don't kind of evolve beyond these things, or sort of come out from this place where they've just sort of gone into their personal darkness and put their shields up? They're kind of holding themselves in this energy of mourning, and what the signal that sends, the impression that conveys to you, the messages that are not what they are intending, and kind of what's going to be the fallout from all of that. Whatever they're having to kind of clean up or clear out of their life, they're also looking at sort of what kind of damage control can they realistically do with you at this point in time, and what's going to be necessary. Is it even going to be possible to kind of win your heart back, or move you into a space of really trusting or believing that sort of this difficult period, with a lot unspoken, that it's kind of actually in the higher interest of the connection moving forward. So it may be something as well with kind of this little cat right here, with that idea of like telepathy and intuition. They may be almost trying to kind of like send you signs or signals remotely, internally speaking, sort of just like almost screaming out that message of like, I'm coming, I'm working on it, I've made a decision, I'm choosing you, I'm choosing us, and moving in this direction. And yet they're having to move very slowly, move very stealthily, move in kind of in an undercover sort of way around triggers, or in a process of kind of delicately and appropriately and in the cleanest way possible, sort of handling situations in their life, closing up cycles and chapters in order to clear the space for your story with one another to begin, or to kind of take on that next layer, that next manifestation. And so there's kind of like a fear of, are you getting the signals? Are you getting the messages? Is this coming in clearly? Is this going to be enough? Are you going to wait for me based on just what I'm able to give at this point in time? So let's take a look and see what the potential actions are towards you. So we have yin, fog, veiled, imagine, and tsunami, wake up call. So this yin energy, this is the cup of love. This is offering you that cup of love. This is opening up in a receptive manner to this connection, to the flow of energies between the two of you. So as they're with the idea of like fog and veiled, that can reinforce the idea of like things, situations, other connections, internal work, shadow work that they're needing to sort of do or complete within themselves in order to have that sort of clear road for the next step between the two of you. And so it might almost be something where they're providing kind of veiled or cloaked messages, things that are coming through in telepathy, things where you're needing to read between the lines to kind of get these words and sentiments of love, while they're still trying to kind of deal with some things outwardly and are not yet at the point, it feels like, of being able to articulate these things in the light of day. But rather than kind of just leaving you hanging, leaving you in a state of limbo and not really knowing what to expect, it feels like some kind of wave or watershed of emotions. Maybe a lot of this is just very deliberately through meditation, tapping in and sending you waves of love in a way that might even feel kind of overwhelming. This may actually kind of provide a function for you as well. All this energy that they're sending, really assisting you to kind of continue forth on your own personal healing, growth, and ascension journey, working with one another toward kind of the grounding into material reality of this imagined future with one another. This like 10 of Cups brought into the space of 10 of Pentacles as they're doing this work within themselves to close out cycles, close out chapters, clear out obstacles to kind of the open expression of love between the two of you. It's almost a sense of supporting you while you continue to kind of rise and grow and expand and kind of step into the fullness of expression of your light, your personal power. And in this way, kind of forging this link, or keeping that link alive between the two of you, so that as they are embarking on their own kind of personal growth trajectory, they're able to sort of follow with you, accompany you, more easily kind of meet you at that vibration that you are continuing to climb towards, after they're at the kind of completing this period of sort of whatever needs to be sort of shut out or closed out of their life. So at least for sort of the immediate future, it feels to be that level of communication, that kind of the loving energies. A lot of this is going to be energetic. It's going to be spiritual. It's going to really open the door for the two of you to have trust in building, at least at this point in time, kind of the next chapter of this connection from kind of the top down. This is not somebody who wants to consciously just linger in like, well, we've got this energetic connection, we've got this subtle unspoken connection, that's enough, and then I've got this other life that I'm living, or I've got these kind of reservations or hang-ups within myself, these blocks within myself that sort of limit the free flow and exchange of kind of love and harmony and building. This is something where, as they are working on dismantling and moving into more of a place where they can give and receive love in a very open and reciprocal way with you, it feels like they are consciously going to do their best to sort of feed into this connection in whatever ways that they can. So look for those little kind of read between the line messages, those energies, feeling your person around you. This is not just a byproduct of the higher self and kind of directing you to that, polarity in order to sort of, keep your eye on the higher prize. It feels that for most of you, this is emanating from the 3D person. It's sort of like their loving words while they are needing to be almost mute and focused on the task at hand situationally, or internally within themselves. And all of this kind of being with the conscious intention of, I want to move towards you. I want to repair this situation. I want us to build and grow. I want to be able to kind of open up and experience more of the fullness of this love, of this connection. And so until they're at that place of being able to do that in a very practical sense, it feels like they're very consciously going to make sure that, energetically speaking, they are a dominant and unmistakable presence in your life. So let's get some messages from your twin flame's higher self and see what they want you to know right now. Oh, and before I get into these, I forgot to read the signs out on these tarot cards. I actually forgot for all three groups today, and group number 2, I don't think I ever got to those. So if you're here from group number 2, sorry about that. But yeah, so for 1 and 3, I was able to sort of slip those in at the last minute before I finished the reading. So for the Fool, we've got Aries energy, the Devil is Capricorn, the Moon is Pisces and Cancer. With the Cups, we've got water energy, Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio, and Wands is fire energy, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. So they say, I wonder if your feelings for me are the same. I know you are upset with me, and I'm upset with myself. I'm so annoyed, but I haven't figured out why. The life I'm living is not going how I had imagined. I was ready to give us a chance for real this time, but then something happened. And I don't know why I didn't learn the first time, because I really don't want to be without you. So I'll take a look at the guidance from Spirit now, and then I'll close the reading out with some initials. So there's the artwork, and it says, "My beloved, though we may be physically apart, spiritually we are always united. For love transcends space and time. Nothing is missing." So that's that confirmation right there of conscious efforts being made to share their love with you, energetically speaking, while they are working on some things internally or in a practical sense in their life. So, you know, kind of with that principle of sort of this and that are true, that definitely applies in this situation. Whatever they are withholding, whatever they are kind of presenting in terms of like a closed off energy, or, you know, very realistic blocks, like third party situations that exist between you and the material world. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, you know, with this person, where they're consciously trying to work on these things. They're chipping away. They've created some sort of plan. They're enacting some sort of plan. Their time of kind of deliberating has reached its completion. They've chosen this connection, and they've chosen to do their best to move in the direction of you. And so with this is kind of, you know, obviously free will is the case for everybody. So, you know, if you are choosing to kind of hold on to that hope and give them this opportunity to really do what they need to do in order to kind of create that space for this connection, for the next stage, the next chapter, or even it getting off the ground for the first time for some of you, you know, following your instinct and intuition. If you are kind of not interested in waiting, if you've been hearing the same old thing over and over again, or it's just been kind of round and round, or your intuition is guiding you in other directions, then you know, you're kind of the final say in this situation. They can have the best of intentions, but, you know, it's your life. So sort of what feels best for you, what feels right for you, is definitely sort of the route to take in this situation. But this is, you know, for most of you, your twin is very, very intent on kind of not just letting the situation continue to stagnate or sort of remain as it is right now. They are intent on making changes, and you know, whether that's enough, whether you're still available and interested, whether that's something you're on board with, it's going to be different for everyone, and only you can decide that for yourself. So these initials can be a first, middle, or last name of you or your twin flame, or can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. X, U, L, Y, G, W, H, K, T, G, I, P, D, B, M, C, F, A, U, R, and N. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. Please take care and be well.